The Las Vegas Raiders are heading into an exciting matchup against the Cleveland Browns, a team that's looking to turn its season around. The Browns have some solid players, but they haven't quite figured it out yet. Deshaun Watson, their quarterback, hasn't been performing up to expectations. The Raiders, however, have a reputation for allowing struggling quarterbacks to shine. On the Raiders' side, there's a big question. Has Glaze officially taken over the starting position? He showed some great potential in recent games, but now he faces a massive test against one of the league's most dominant defenders, Myles Garrett. We'll dive deeper into that and also discuss Davante Adams' recent support for Gardner Minshew a little later. Myles Garrett is a force to be reckoned with. In my opinion, he's probably the greatest player I've ever seen. I'm not one to hype players without reason, but Garrett is different. Standing at 280 pounds, he's not only bigger than Max Crosby, but also stronger and faster. I categorize defensive linemen into four tiers. The lowest tier includes players like Clelin Ferrell. The next tier up has players like Jadeveon Clowney and Malcolm Kuntz. Then there's a tier for elite players like Max Crosby, TJ Watt, and Micah Parsons. But at the very top, there's only one guy, Myles Garrett. Garrett's combination of size, speed, and power is unparalleled. He's a rare talent, and teams are constantly trying to find the next Myles Garrett in players like Tyree Wilson and Trayvon Walker. However, Garrett is one of a kind, and he'll be lining up against Glaze on every snap. This will be a welcome to the NFL moment for Glaze. With the Raiders starting tackle Thayer Munford missing practice, it's looking like Glaze will be starting again. The Browns will likely target him, putting Garrett on the rookie in just his second ever NFL start. Glaze will need to prove himself against one of the best in the game. Despite the challenges, I see potential in Glaze's performance so far. The Raiders will need to strategize around Garrett, probably using double teams and chip help to protect their young tackle. Glaze has shown upside, while Munford's potential seems limited. Although Munford might currently be a bit more reliable, he's not likely to improve much. He's slower and less agile, making it difficult for him to compete with a player like Garrett. Glaze, on the other hand, has room to grow and could become a solid starting option. There have been some tough moments for Glaze, such as getting bull rushed by Jadeveon Clowney, which led to a sack. But let's not forget the many positive snaps he had too. He's still developing, and mistakes are expected. Even Munford, with his experience, would likely struggle against a talent like Garrett. Overall, I think it's wise for the Raiders to stick with Glaze. He might not be perfect yet, but he's shown enough promise to be the long-term starter. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles this big test and whether he can rise to the occasion as the season progresses. There's some interesting news coming out regarding the Las Vegas Raiders and their quarterback situation. When you look back at the game against the Carolina Panthers, a team they probably should have beaten, Aidan O'Connell had a solid performance. He completed 9 out of 12 passes and led a touchdown drive, which made people wonder if he should be the starter going forward. Earlier this week, Coach Antonio Pierce hinted that they weren't 100% committed to keeping Gardner Minshew as the starting quarterback. This stirred up speculation among fans about whether Aidan O'Connell should get a shot. But then, Antonio Pierce told NFL insider Ian Rappaport that the team is sticking with Minshew, and I think that's the smart move for now. The Cleveland Browns have a strong defensive line, not just with Myles Garrett but overall as a unit. They have a top 10 defense in the league and a solid defensive coaching staff. Switching quarterbacks at this point could be risky, especially when facing such a tough defense. Davante Adams also weighed in on the situation and supported keeping Gardner Minshew as the starter. When asked about it, he made a good point. Look, it's been well documented that I supported Aidan throughout training camp, but Gardner's been doing his best out there. It's been a bit inconsistent, sure, but we've all had our ups and downs. You don't want your quarterback feeling like he's walking on eggshells. If you yank him after a few games, what kind of message does that send? It's like telling your girlfriend every day that she could be out the door. How do you expect to get the best out of her with that attitude? So, I think it's smart to stick with Gardner for now and give him a real chance. Davante Adams is absolutely right. If you name someone your starting quarterback, you can't just pull them after a couple of games unless they're really struggling, like how the Panthers benched Bryce Young because he clearly needed more development time. But Gardner Minshew has been in the league for 5 or 6 years. He doesn't need development, he needs a fair shot. The Raiders' issues go beyond the quarterback position. The offensive line has been one of the worst in the league, and the run game has been terrible. The problem isn't just that the linemen are losing their matchups. The entire scheme seems off. Players aren't being coached properly to handle defensive stunts and zone schemes, which points to issues with coaching and preparation. This is where the responsibility falls on offensive coordinator Luke Getsy and the run game coordinator. They need to make sure the players are prepared and set up for success. It's not wise to change quarterbacks just because the run game or offensive line is struggling. That would show that the coaching staff doesn't know what it's doing. It's important to give the quarterback some stability and confidence. If you bench Gardner Minshew every time he throws an interception or has a rough game, it'll create a negative atmosphere. Even if Gardner Minshew struggles against the Browns, it's important for the Raiders to stick with him for at least the next 4 to 5 weeks. Making rash changes will only hurt the team in the long run. Let's see what Minshew can do with more time and support from the coaching staff and his teammates. It doesn't make sense to make a sudden switch at quarterback. Some defenses are stronger than others, and the Raiders are adjusting to a new scheme. While Aiden O'Connell showed some potential in preseason, he also struggled at times. In his limited playtime against the Raiders, he nearly threw 2 interceptions, one directly to a linebacker who dropped it, and another pass that got tipped but missed the defender's hands by just a yard. He also took a sack due to poor offensive line play. The reality is that even if you start O'Connell, he would likely face similar struggles. If Aiden O'Connell has potential, it's crucial to let him develop properly. He needs to be put into a situation where the offensive line is solid and the team is functioning cohesively. Throwing him into chaos would only set him up for failure. Right now, Gardner Minshew is the better option because he's experienced and can handle the pressure while the team works on improving its weak points. The Raiders need stability, and Minshew provides that. Constantly switching quarterbacks sends the message that the team is unsure of what it's doing. While O'Connell might be the future, Gardner Minshew is the right choice for now. On another note, defensive end Malcolm Kuntz had successful surgery to repair his torn ACL. He's expected to be ready to go in 2025. It's a tough break for Kuntz, but I hope the Raiders bring him back on a one-year deal, even though he'll be a free agent after this season. It makes sense for both parties to stick together, rather than Kuntz going to a new team on a short-term contract. Additionally, Marcus Epps is also out for the season with a knee injury. It's unfortunate to see the Raiders dealing with so many injuries, but one positive is that Isaiah Pola-Mao has been stepping up. According to Coach Patrick Graham, Isaiah's work ethic has been impressive, and he could potentially fill the gap left by Epps. Finally, an interesting update. Justin Fields mentioned that the Chargers, Ravens, and Raiders all reached out to the Bears about trading for him. However, he felt that both the Chargers and Ravens already had long-term quarterbacks, and the Raiders had a QB in place as well. This makes me wonder if he was referring to Minshew or O'Connell as the Raiders' quarterback. Ultimately, he didn't want to join a team where he'd be competing for a starting role. There's been a lot of talk about Luke Getsy and whether or not he's the problem. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think Getsy isn't the right offensive coordinator. However, I'm not ready to blame all of Fields' struggles on him. The Steelers, for example, are a well-coached team with a top-tier defense. Justin Fields has improved, but he's not a top-5 quarterback just yet. Looking back, I think the Raiders made the right decision in not trading for Fields. They should continue with what they have and, if needed, draft a new quarterback. Let's see how things progress with the current roster. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the Raiders should re-sign Malcolm Kuntz? How do you feel about the recent injuries? Let me know. Give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates. See you next time.